Hi all, it's Miss Shepard. These past few weeks have been really busy, and I want to make sure that no one gets behind in their writing for our writing unit. By this time, everyone has a topic that they want to write about. Mine, for example, is the Army Officer Corps. After we came up with our topic, we created a thesis for our writing. Now, your thesis is the statement that you choose to make that proves your point or states some sort of argument that you believe to be true. Not only does your thesis show something or express something that you believe to be true, it's also a fact that you feel you're able to prove with evidence. Now, we remember that not everybody agrees with our thesis, but it's something that we think and we know we can prove with evidence through research. So, we are now moving into the research phase so that we can take that research and move with it to writing. Here's how I want us to organize ourselves to fill in and come up with our research. Yesterday, or last week rather, we looked at our organizational chart that helps us to understand what our thesis is, what 4 reasons support our thesis, and then what questions we have of those reasons, which can guide us in our research. We're going to take this information from our organizational chart, and we are going to reorganize it into what is called a KWL chart. Now, you all know this from before, but just to reiterate, a KWL chart categorizes 3 things, 3 pieces of information. First, under the K part, you are categorizing, I'll show you here, you're categorizing what you know. In the W part of your chart, you're categorizing what you want to know. And in the L part of the chart, you're categorizing what you have learned after you've learned it. So, you can see that my chart is partly filled in, and I'm going to walk with you through how to fill your chart in so that you can get ready for your research. I have a separate video that we're viewing in class that I'm also going to add to this post, and if you'd like to check it now and then come right back into this instruction, you can do that, or you can just follow along with me and we'll go straight through. I think you'll understand either way, but the video might give you a little bit of extra context. So, within our nonfiction text or informational text that we're going to be writing, we have our thesis. Now, I've included the thesis way up top here just to kind of help guide me as I work through the rest of the chart. My thesis, just to reiterate, is the United States Army Officer Corps is the coolest organization ever. That's what I've written really small up top. Then, in my KWL parts of my chart, I've used the information that I have to already to fill in the first 2 columns. So in my no column, I've listed my 4 reasons to support my thesis. We remember from before that my 4 reasons are, first, that Army officers are very involved in the lives of their soldiers. Second, that we have awesome uniforms. Third, that our equipment is the most diverse. And fourth, that we are the oldest fraternity or brotherhood in America. So these are my 4 reasons which support how or why the United States Army Officer Corps is the coolest organization ever. Now, what I've done last time, from these 4 reasons, I created questions to go with each reason, and that can help guide me in my research. So, for example, for the Army officer, for the reason that states Army officers are very involved in the lives of soldiers, I ask how involved are Army officers. For the second reason, we have the coolest uniforms. I've asked how many uniforms we have, and how many do we have now, and how many have we had ever. This goes on for the rest of my chart. I'm asking 1 question at least, but you can ask more of each reason, each supporting detail that supports my thesis. This last column, the column that says learn, it's going to help us to organize the information that we gain from our research. Now, I'm going to create a separate video once I come up with my research, but I wanted to get everyone this far and set them into the research work that you need to do. I realize that sometimes I'm not just going to be able to type into Google how involved are Army officers in the lives of soldiers. I'm reading upside down. It's rather challenging. How involved are Army officers in the lives of soldiers? That might be a little bit challenging or a little bit difficult to find information just immediately off the bat magically from Google. So I might have to shorten my phrases and focus on just the most important parts of my question to put into a search in Google. So I might do something like officer, I might search officer enlisted involvement. I might search officer leadership skills. Those are things that I might come up with. And so I've just made a little note for myself to kind of change how I end up conducting my research for that particular topic. Another thing, so we're looking at the second section, or the second reason, which talks about uniforms. The question asks, how many uniforms does the officer corps have now? And then how many uniforms the officer corps have ever? So I might search for that U.S. Army officer uniforms. And so I might not get the immediate number. It might not like magically spit out the United States Army Officer Corps has 6 uniforms, but I might find a website that can show me all of the different uniforms that Army officers currently wear. And that way I'll be able to count and determine how many uniforms. And then even in my research, I can include what kinds of uniforms, for what reasons those uniforms are worn, that kind of thing. And I can do the same thing with past uniforms, where I'm able to find descriptions of past uniforms for United States Army officers and when those were worn. Let me go ahead and just make a note of that now before I forget. So I might look for the history of U.S. Army officer uniforms. Things like that. Okay. So that's what it might look like for me to change my question to some sort of research topic that I'm able to shorten and find information on that's directly related to my question. Once I find an answer that I think would be helpful, I'm going to go ahead and write the answer here in this list. And then I'm also going to write where I got the information from. So for example, I already know, because I've started looking. So for my second reason that talks about uniforms, there's a site that's called Marlowe White. And Marlowe White is like a very, 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 very popular organization that sells Army officers their uniforms, because we have to buy all of our uniforms. So if you become an officer, you have to buy all your stuff. With that though, I can take a look at how many different uniforms we have and kind of count and get an understanding of what a general number of uniforms that Army officers are required to wear. So once I have a website that tells me the information I'm looking for, I'm just going to make a note in the bottom of the box saying where I got my information from, because you are going to be responsible for citing your sources to an extent. To cite a source means to list or to say, to name where you got a piece of information that you did not directly make up from your own brain. Okay, so I'm going to cite my source right down here by just making a list, or making a note of the fact that my information is going to come from Marlowe White. Okay. Some people today have gotten their information from National Geographic. Some people have gotten their information from the Washington Post. Some people have gotten their information from Wikipedia, some of the stuff that they've gotten. So those are just some examples of where you can find information and where you would be able to write it, or what you might want to write down on in your boxes. Okay, team, we'll have another installment of this once my boxes are full, but this is enough information to get you all started into your own research and finishing up your work from class today. Okay, so when you come back and see me the next time, this is what is due. You need to have this filled in, so that we can continue on in our drafting work. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Have a good one. Bye.